Commander Do-hyun Park wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed through the thick jungle of Eden 9. The air was heavy and warm, filled with strange bird calls and the rustle of leaves. His survey team had split up to cover more ground, each person carrying devices to map the endless forest that covered this newly discovered world. Do-hyun checked his wrist computer again. The readings made no sense. According to his instruments, there was a power source somewhere in the trees above him. But that was impossible. The initial scans had shown no signs of advanced life on Eden 9. The most complex creatures they had found were similar to Earth's monkeys, swinging through the branches high above. A twig snapped overhead. Do-hyun looked up, his hand moving to the stunner at his hip. Through gaps in the leaves, he caught glimpses of movement. Something was up there, something bigger than a monkey. He activated his comm unit. Base, this is Commander Park. I've detected an anomalous power reading and possible movement in Sector 7. Requesting backup. Static was his only answer. The thick canopy often interfered with their communications. He was on his own. More movement above. Do-hyun drew his stunner and switched on its recording function. First contact protocols were clear. Document everything. He began climbing the nearest tree, using the natural handholds in its rough bark. The higher he went, the stranger things became. He noticed thin cables running between some branches, and what looked like parts of old machines partially grown over by vines. 20 meters up, he found his first clear sign of intelligence. A platform had been built into the junction of several massive branches. It was made of both wood and what appeared to be salvaged metal panels. The construction was clever, using the tree's natural shape while reinforcing it with technology. "Hello," he called out, keeping his voice calm and friendly. "I mean no harm. I'm Commander Do-hyun Park of the Earth Expeditionary Force." Something moved in the shadows of a higher platform. Do-hyun caught a glimpse of a humanoid figure ducking behind a trunk. "Please," he said, "I just want to talk. We didn't know anyone lived here." "You're trespassing." The voice that answered was clear and feminine, speaking perfect galactic standard. Do-hyun almost lost his grip in surprise. He had expected grunts or primitive language, not the common tongue of civilized space. "I apologize," he said quickly. "We were told this world was uninhabited. I'm part of a survey team." A face appeared around the trunk, and Do-hyun's surprise deepened. She looked almost human, with delicate features and long dark hair tied back practically. Her clothing was a mix of handmade garments and what looked like modified pieces of a standard environment suit. "Earth Survey Team?" she asked, studying him with intelligent eyes. "Not collective. No, we're independent. Earth has been expanding its exploration programs." Do-hyun holstered his stunner slowly, showing he meant no threat. "I'm Do-hyun Park. And you are?" She seemed to debate with herself before answering. "Hey Newell. Just ho Newell now." She gestured to a rope ladder hanging nearby. "You might as well come up properly before you fall. Your climbing technique is terrible." Do-hyun laughed despite himself and moved carefully to the ladder. As he climbed, he took in more details of the treetop complex. What had seemed primitive from below was revealed as an ingenious blend of natural materials and salvage technology. Solar collectors were worked into the canopy. Water collection systems fed into storage tanks. Everything was crafted to seem like natural growth from a distance. Newell waited for him on a larger platform that seemed to serve as a main living area. A small structure of woven branches and metal panels provided shelter. Tools and equipment were organized neatly on handmade shelves. A computer terminal hummed quietly in one corner, its casing decorated with carved designs that made it blend with the wooden surroundings. "Welcome to my humble home," Newell said with a small, ironic smile. "Would you like some water? The filtration system works quite well." Do-hyun accepted a cup made from some kind of gourd. The water was cool and clean. "This is remarkable," he said, looking around. "But I don't understand. Our scan showed no technology, no settlements." "That's because I designed it that way." Hey Newell sat on a cushion woven from local fibers. Everything is shielded and disguised. To most scans, this looks like natural growth. The power signatures are masked to mimic biological processes. She gestured for him to sit. It's not paranoia if they're really watching. Who's watching? Do-hyun asked, taking the seat. His training was at war with his curiosity. He should call this in, follow first contact protocols. But something in Hey Newell's manner made him hesitate. She was no primitive savage, that was clear. And she seemed to know things about Earth and the collective that she shouldn't. The collective, of course. Hey Newell's face hardened slightly. They monitor this sector, though not as closely as they'd like. Too many worlds, too much space to watch it all. She studied him thoughtfully. You really are Earth military, aren't you? Not some collective trick. Do-hyun nodded. Commander in the Earth Expeditionary Force. We're mapping potential colony worlds. He pulled out his credentials, letting her examine them. Newell ran a scanner over the ID chip, nodding at the results. Good encryption. The collective hasn't cracked that level yet, or at least they hadn't when I left. She handed it back. So Earth is expanding independently now. Interesting. They won't like that. The collective. Do-hyun leaned forward. They're our allies, our mentors. They've helped humanity develop faster than light travel, establish colonies. Helped. Hey Newell's laugh was bitter. Is that what they told you? That they're helping? She stood and paced the platform, her movements quick and angry. They've been holding humanity back for centuries, doling out technology in tiny pieces, always keeping Earth dependent, making sure humans never develop too quickly, never become true competitors. Do-hyun frowned. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I had proof. More than enough. Hey Newell stopped pacing and faced him. That's why I'm here. Living in a tree like a savage, hiding from their patrols. Because I found proof and I tried to expose it. She smiled sadly. I used to be Dr. Hey Newell, senior researcher in the Collective Science Division. Now I'm just Hum Newell, the Exile, cast out for daring to tell the truth. A distant rumble made them both look up. Through gaps in the leaves, Do-hyun saw clouds gathering. Storm coming, he said. I should get back to base. Stay, Hey Newell said. Please. These storms can be dangerous if you don't know the terrain. And she hesitated. It's been a long time since I've talked to anyone, especially someone from Earth. Do-hyun knew he should refuse. Protocol said to return to base, report this contact, let the diplomats handle it. But Hey Newell's words about the collective troubled him. Earth's relationship with the advanced civilization had always seemed too good to be true. And there was something in Hey Newell's eyes, a loneliness, a desperation to be heard. I'll stay, he said, but I want to hear everything. About you, about the collective, about why you're really here. Lightning flashed in the distance. Hey Newell began preparing what smelled like tea, using the heating element that seemed cobbled together from salvaged parts. It's a long story, she said, and not a happy one. Are you sure you want to know? Yes, Do-hyun said firmly. I need to know. Thunder rolled across the forest as Hey Newell poured the tea into 2 cups. Rain began to patter on the leaves above them. In the growing darkness, the hidden lights of Hey Newell's technology began to glow softly, creating a warm haven in the storm. Very well, she said, handing him a cup. Let me tell you about the collective's true nature and why they're so afraid of humanity's potential. Do-hyun settled in to listen, knowing that whatever he learned would change everything. The rain grew stronger, isolating their platform in a curtain of water. Somewhere in the distance, his team would be worrying about him. But right now, in this hidden place between the primitive and the advanced, he was about to learn the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. And nothing would ever be the same. The storm raged outside Hey Newell's treehouse, but inside, the air was warm and filled with the sweet smell of herbal tea. Du Hyun held his cup with both hands, watching the strange woman across from him. Lightning flashed, making the shadows dance across her face as she began her story. I was born on New Seoul, one of the first human colonies to host a collective research center, Hae-Newell said. My parents were scientists who worked with the collective. They believed in the partnership between humans and the collective, believed we were being guided toward a better future. She smiled sadly. They made sure I learned everything I could, encouraged me to join the collective science division when I was old enough. You were accepted? Du Hyun asked. I thought the collective rarely allowed humans into their advanced programs. That's what they want everyone to think. Hae-Newell set down her cup. They accept just enough humans to make it seem like they're sharing knowledge, but were never given full access, never trusted with their most important secrets. I was one of the lucky ones, or so I thought. She stood and walked to her computer terminal, typing quickly. A holographic display appeared, showing complex scientific diagrams. I worked in their energy research division. My job was to study human power systems and suggest small improvements. Nothing too advanced, nothing that would let Earth develop too quickly. Her hands clenched. But I was curious. I started looking deeper into their databases, comparing the technology they gave us with what they kept for themselves. What did you find? Du Hyun leaned forward, fascinated. Everything was held back. Everything. Hae-Newell's voice shook with anger. The fusion drives they gave Earth. They have antimatter engines that are 10 times more efficient. The medical treatments they share. They have cures for diseases they let humans die from every day. But the worst part? She pressed another button, and new images appeared. They actively sabotage human development. Do Hyun studied the diagrams. They showed what looked like human research facilities, but with strange devices attached to them. What am I looking at? Interference generators. The collective places them near every major human research center. They create subtle energy fields that make certain experiments fail, certain discoveries impossible. Hae-Newell's eyes were bright with tears of frustration. Humanity could have developed faster than light travel 50 years before the collective gave it to us. But every time someone got close, these devices would activate. The scientists would give up, thinking they had made a mistake. Then the collective would swoop in later with their gift of the technology. Thunder crashed outside. Du Hyun stood and paced the platform, his mind racing. But why? Why hold us back? Fear. Hae-Newell's voice was quiet but clear. The collective has done this before, to dozens of species. They find promising young civilizations and make themselves essential. They pose as mentors, guides, wise elder beings sharing their knowledge. But it's all about control. They're terrified of competition. She walked to a storage unit and pulled out a sealed case. Inside was a data crystal, glowing with a soft blue light. Humans learn too quickly, adapt too well. The collective studies showed that if left alone, humanity would have matched their level of technology within 200 years. That terrified them. So they stepped in, made themselves indispensable, and carefully controlled human progress. Do Hyun stared at the crystal. That contains the proof. Hae-Newell nodded. Everything. Research records, internal communications, the complete history of their manipulation. I found it all, documented it all. She laughed bitterly. I was naive. I thought if I just showed the evidence to the right people, things would change. I didn't understand how deep the corruption went. What happened? Du Hyun asked softly. They called it a review board, a chance to present my findings. Hae-Newell's face was tight with remembered pain. Instead, they stripped me of my position, my citizenship, everything. They said I had violated security protocols, stolen classified information. They gave me a choice: execution for treason against the collective, or exile to an uninhabited world. She gestured around at her treehouse. I chose exile, but I made copies of everything first. I knew someday someone would come who needed to know the truth. Do-hyun's communicator crackled. Through the static, he heard worried voices from his team. The storm must be weakening if signals were getting through. "They'll be looking for you," Hae-Nul said. "You should go. Forget what I told you. Live in ignorance. It's safer." Do-hyun looked at her for a long moment. "My grandfather was a scientist," he said slowly. "He was brilliant. But every major project he worked on failed mysteriously. He died thinking he was a failure." His hand curled into a fist. Was that them? Their interference? Hae-Nul's silence was answer enough. "I'm not leaving," Do-hyun said firmly. "Not yet. Show me everything. Every piece of evidence you have. The collective may control Earth's development, but they don't control me. Not anymore." Hae-Nul studied his face, hope beginning to shine in her eyes. "It will put you in danger. Once you know, you can never unknow. The collective has agents everywhere." "I'm already in danger," Do-hyun said. "The moment I climbed up here, the moment I listened to you. I chose this path. Now I need to know everything so I can help make it right." Outside, the storm was beginning to fade. Inside, Hae-Nul began powering up more of her hidden systems, screens coming to life with data that would shake the foundations of human civilization. Do-hyun sent a brief message to his team. "Shelter from storm. Will return when safe," then settled in to learn the full truth about humanity's so-called allies. As Hae-Nul began showing him document after document, recording after recording, a new kind of storm was brewing. Not of rain and thunder, but of revolution and change. The collective had spent centuries keeping humanity in chains of false friendship, but they had made a mistake when they exiled Hae-Nul. They had given her exactly what she needed: time to plan, and eventually someone to share the truth with. In the growing darkness, two outcasts, the Exile and the Commander, began plotting a future where humanity would finally break free. The night was long, but they had much to discuss, and somewhere above the storms of Eden 9, the stars were waiting for a humanity unchained. Do-hyun's communicator buzzed again with worried messages from his team. But those messages, like his old understanding of the galaxy, would have to wait. Right now, he had revolution to plan. Morning came to Eden 9 with golden light filtering through wet leaves. Do-hyun stood on Hae-Nul's platform, watching the sun rise through gaps in the canopy. He had not slept. His mind was too full of what he had learned during the night. Behind him, Hae-Nul worked at her computer, her fingers moving quickly across the keys. "Your team has sent 7 more messages," she said. "They're organizing a search party." Do-hyun nodded. "I need to go back. They'll be worried." He turned to face her. "But I'll return. We need to make a plan." Hae-Nul looked up from her screen. "I spent 3 years planning, Do-hyun. The collective has a monitoring station on the other side of this continent. It's automated, but it connects to their main network. If we could get inside, we could upload all my evidence directly into their communication system." "How far is it?" Do-hyun asked, moving to look at her maps. 2 days by foot through the jungle. The station looks like a natural rock formation from the outside." Hae-Nul brought up an image on her screen. "I studied it from a distance, but I've never been able to get close. They have motion sensors that would detect a single person, but 2 people working together." She let the thought hang in the air. Do-hyun studied the station's layout. "I have military override codes. They might work on some of their systems." "They will," Hae-Nul said confidently. "The collective is arrogant. They never expect anyone to challenge them directly. Their security is focused on subtle control, not direct threats." She stood and walked to a storage unit, pulling out what looked like handmade electronic devices. "I've built everything we need to get inside. I just never had anyone to help use it." A bird call echoed through the trees. Hae-Nul tensed. "Search party," she whispered. "They're getting close." Do-hyun quickly gathered his equipment. "I'll lead them away from here, but I'll come back tonight, after my team is asleep." He paused, looking at her intently. You're sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. Henul met his gaze steadily. I gave up everything to expose the truth. I'm ready to risk what little I have left to finish it. She stepped closer to him, her voice soft but firm. But you need to be sure. You have a career, a life. The collective will try to destroy you if we fail. My life has been a lie, Du Hyun said. Everything I thought I knew about Earth's place in the galaxy was false. I can't walk away from that. He smiled slightly. Besides, someone once told me that humans adapt too well. It's time to prove that. Another bird call, closer now. Henul quickly showed Du Hyun a hidden path down through the branches. Tonight, she said, I'll have everything ready. Do Hyun descended quickly, using the natural cover of the forest to mask his movement. He found his search party less than a kilometer away and made up a story about getting lost in the storm. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Jae-ho, looked skeptical but didn't question him directly. The day passed slowly. Do Hyun went through his normal duties, attending meetings and filing reports. But his mind was on the evening to come. He studied the survey team's maps, memorizing the terrain between their base and the collective's monitoring station. When night fell, he waited until the camp was quiet before slipping away into the darkness. Henul was waiting for him on the lowest platform of her treehouse. She had changed from her usual clothes into what looked like a modified stealth suit. Pieces of equipment were laid out neatly on a workbench. "We have 6 hours until dawn," she said without preamble. "That's enough time to go through the plan and make sure you understand all the equipment." Do Hyun sat down beside her as she began explaining each device. There were sensor scramblers that would hide them from motion detectors, code breakers for the security systems, and small drones Henul had built to create distractions if needed. Everything was carefully crafted from salvaged parts and local materials. "The most important thing," Henul said, holding up a small crystal, "is this. It contains a virus I wrote that will spread my evidence through their entire network. Once it starts, they won't be able to stop it. Every collective facility, every diplomatic station, every human colony will receive the truth." "How long will it take to upload?" Do Hyun asked, examining the crystal. 10 minutes. That's the dangerous part. One of us will have to stay at the main terminal to make sure it completes." Henul's face was serious. "If we're caught, the collective won't show mercy. They'll execute us both as terrorists." Do Hyun reached out and took her hand. The gesture surprised them both, but neither pulled away. "We're not terrorists," he said firmly. "We're freedom fighters. The collective has enslaved humanity with false kindness. It's time to break those chains." Henul's fingers tightened around his. "I've been alone for so long," she said quietly, "fighting this battle by myself, wondering if I was crazy to think I could make a difference. Then you climbed up my tree and everything changed." "You're not alone anymore," Do Hyun said. He looked at their joined hands, thinking how strange it was that here, on this wild planet, he had found someone who made him feel more alive than ever before. "We'll do this together." They spent the next few hours practicing with the equipment, memorizing the station's layout, and planning for every possible problem. Henul showed Do Hyun how to use the local plants as cover, how to move silently through the trees. He taught her military hand signals and basic combat moves. They worked together as if they had known each other for years, not days. As the night deepened, they finished their preparations. Tomorrow night, they would begin their mission. Success would mean freedom for humanity. Failure would mean death. But as Do Hyun looked at Henul, seeing the determination in her eyes and the strength in her bearing, he knew he had made the right choice. "I should go," he said finally. "I need to be back before anyone wakes up." Henul nodded. "Tomorrow night, then, after moonset." Do Hyun started to turn away, then stopped, moving slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted. He leaned forward and kissed her softly. For a moment, they stood together in the darkness, two rebels against an empire. finding comfort in each other's touch. When they separated, no words were needed. They both knew what was at stake, what they were fighting for. Do-hyun disappeared into the night, leaving Hae-nul standing on her platform, touching her lips and smiling slightly. Tomorrow, they would challenge the most powerful civilization in known space. Tomorrow, they would risk everything for truth and freedom. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of Eden 9, they had found something worth fighting for. Not just justice, not just truth, but each other. The stars wheeled overhead, unknowing that soon, very soon, the balance of power they had witnessed for centuries was about to change forever. The collective monitoring station rose from the jungle like a sleeping giant. In the darkness after moonset, Do-hyun and Hae-nul crouched in the underbrush, studying the seemingly natural rock formation. Tiny lights blinked among the stones, the only sign that this was more than just another hill. Their main patrol drone passes every 15 minutes, Hae-nul whispered, checking the small device she had built. We have 12 minutes until the next pass. Do-hyun nodded, double-checking their equipment. They both wore the stealth suits Hae-nul had modified, with extra layers of local plants attached to break up their outlines. They carried minimal gear, just what they needed to break in and upload the virus. Remember, Hae-nul said softly, once we're inside, we have 30 minutes before their systems notice the override codes. After that, they'll send alerts to every collective facility in the sector. Do-hyun reached over and squeezed her hand. Then we'll just have to be quick. He smiled in the darkness, ready to change the galaxy. Hae-nul squeezed back. I've been ready for 3 years. They moved forward slowly, using the sensor scramblers to avoid detection. The station's outer wall looked like rough stone, but when they reached it, Do-hyun could feel the subtle vibration of machinery inside. Hae-nul pointed to a section that looked exactly like all the others. Maintenance access, she mouthed silently. Your codes. Do-hyun pulled out his command unit and entered the override sequence he used for high-security Earth facilities. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a section of the rock slid aside, revealing a narrow passage. They slipped inside just as the patrol drone hummed overhead. The passage was tight, forcing them to move single file. Hae-nul led the way, having memorized the station's layout from stolen blueprints. They passed through several automated security checkpoints, Do-hyun's codes allowing them through each one. The main control room is 2 levels down. Hae-nul whispered, there's an emergency ladder. Here. She pressed a hidden panel, revealing a maintenance shaft. They climbed down carefully, every sound seeming too loud in the quiet station. At the bottom, they found themselves in a circular room filled with humming computers. Displays covered the walls, showing information about Earth colonies, ship movements, and research projects. Look, Do-hyun said quietly, pointing to one screen. They're tracking every major scientific facility on Earth. Those must be the interference generators you told me about. Hae-nul was already moving to the main terminal. Help me watch the time. I need 10 minutes to upload everything. Her fingers flew across the controls, bypassing security measures she had studied for years. Do-hyun kept his eyes on the displays showing security feeds. So far, the station thought they were a routine maintenance crew, thanks to his codes. But that wouldn't last much longer. A soft beep made them both freeze. One of the screens was flashing red. They're starting to notice something's wrong, Hae-nul said, working faster. The upload is only halfway done. How much longer? 5 minutes. Maybe 6. She didn't look up from her work. If you want to leave now, I understand. One person might be able to slip away. Do-hyun moved closer to her, drawing his stunner. I'm not going anywhere. We finish this together. More alerts started flashing. The station's systems were fighting back against the intrusion, trying to stop the flow of data. Hae-nul's hands were blur over the controls, countering each defense the computer threw up. Come on, she muttered. just a little more. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. Red emergency lights began flashing. On the screens, they could see ships appearing out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Collective patrol vessels, Du Hyun said grimly. They'll be here in minutes. Almost there, Hey Newell said through gritted teeth. The virus is spreading through their network. They can't stop it now, but we need 30 more seconds to make sure it reaches every system. The sound of heavy doors closing echoed through the station. The patrol ships were getting closer. Du Hyun could see smaller craft launching from them, boarding shuttles full of troops. Hanul, he said urgently. Done. She stepped back from the console with a fierce smile. It's done. Every collective facility, every Earth colony, every independent world, they're all getting the evidence right now. The truth about everything. Do Hyun grabbed her hand. Then let's get out of here. We can use the maintenance tunnels too. The main door to the control room exploded inward. Collective security troops in full armor poured through the smoke, weapons raised. Du Hyun pulled Hey Newell behind a console as stunning blasts filled the air. Surrender, a mechanized voice commanded. You have committed crimes against the collective. Surrender, and you may be shown mercy. Newell laughed, a sound of pure joy despite their situation. No need for mercy, she called back. We've already won. Check your communication systems. Check the data flowing through your networks. The truth is out there now, and you can't hide it anymore. The troops paused. Several of them were looking at their helmet displays, seeing the flood of information spreading across collective space. One of them lowered his weapon slightly. This is impossible, the leader said. These files, these records. The truth, Du Hyun said firmly, standing up with his hands raised. About how you've manipulated humanity. About how you've done the same to other species. No more lies. No more control. Hanul stood beside him, their hands clasped together. Your choice now, she said to the troops. Keep serving an empire built on lies, or help us build something better. Something true. The control room was silent except for the beeping of computers and the distant sound of more troops approaching. The security team looked at each other, then at their leader. Slowly, one by one, they lowered their weapons. Command. The leader said into his comm unit, we have a situation here. You need to see this data, all of it. Hanul squeezed Du Hyun's hand. They weren't safe yet. There would be chaos as the truth spread, resistance from those who profited from the lies. But the first step had been taken. The chains were broken. What now? Du Hyun asked softly. Hanul looked around the control room, at the troops struggling to understand their whole world had changed, at the screen showing the virus spreading truth across the galaxy. She smiled. Now we help build something new, something honest. She turned to face him fully. Together. Do Hyun pulled her close and kissed her, not caring about their audience. When they separated, he smiled. Together. Always. Outside the station, dawn was breaking over Eden 9. The golden light filtered through the trees where Hey Newell had made her home, where a chance meeting had started a revolution. Soon, ships would come from Earth, from other colonies, from worlds that had been manipulated by the collective. There would be questions, anger, confusion. But there would also be hope. Hope for a future where humanity could reach its true potential. Hope for a galaxy where knowledge was shared freely, not used as a chain. And in the heart of it all, two people who had found each other in the strangest of places stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The commander who had climbed a tree looking for primitives. The exile who had waited years for someone to help her spread the truth. Their story was just beginning. But already, it had changed everything.